All right. So today I wanted to get into PWC assessments, the annexations. We touched on this in the first class, but just wanted to retouch on it because since then I had a situation come up that I wanted to talk about just so that you guys would be aware. Does everybody here know about the PWC annexations in Fayetteville? No, you don't. Okay. PWC began annexing areas around Fayetteville into their, I guess, service area, so to say, areas that still had septic tanks and wells. And they are ongoing. They've been going on since there was a big annexation around 2008, but there are some that are older than that. And that'll be important a little later when we talk about the situation that I had come up. As PWC annexes the areas, what comes along with that is an assessment that gets put on the property for the cost of putting down those lines. Historically, that cost has been $5,000 per household, and that is just the cost of them installing the sewer and water lines if they're installing those as well. That is not to include having it hooked up. So that is something to make sure that if you come across a situation where you have a client under contract on a house that has an assessment, that they realize that that is just the cost that they have to pay PWC. That does not include actually hooking up to it. Good morning. We're talking about PWC.
Whether they have to pay this whether they want to.
Correct. Yes, so it's attached to the property and it doesn't matter if they plan to hook up or not, they do have to pay the assessment. So
Responsibility of the seller.
correct. Yes, if it is proposed and oh my gosh, I'm completely drawing with confirmed. If it's confirmed, if it's proposed, they're not necessarily required to pay for it. You can of course negotiate that if you know that it's upcoming. And we'll kind of talk about the process of when it's proposed versus when it's confirmed. On the PWC website, so when you're on Google, if you just type in PWC Fayetteville assessments or annexations, it'll bring you to this website, which this is where you can look to see if there's actually a lien on the property for the assessment amount. Over here, you can search by street, and this will tell you if an area has been annexed. And it's important to know whether or not there's actually a confirmed assessment or whether or not it's just in the future. Over here, you can see there's current projects, completed projects, future projects. And down here, this talks about what to expect, how to connect, about utility assessments. And this is going to be really helpful because this is going to explain exactly what it is and how they go through the process. So initially, they will send out a notice. Let me actually get that pulled up because there was one seed added earlier. If you go to current projects, on here, it's going to show you what they're currently working on. Current projects, the neighborhoods, upcoming, the next couple. And this is also going to show you the communications that are sent out and kind of how that process goes. So I'll open up another tab here. Wrong one. So once you've been notified that a property is in an annexation area, they actually do the work before your property is assessed for the amount. So by the time that the assessment is attached to the property, the work for the sewer lines or water lines, if they're doing that as well, will already be done. They then hold a public hearing after the fact to kind of come up with the amount of what it's going to be. And before, like I said, historically, it has been $5,000, but that's not set in stone. It could change for any project that's going on. And so this morning I was looking on the MLS for an example. And something that I've touched on in every class that I've done so far is just don't trust the MLS. Anytime, just don't trust it. And this is a perfect example of why. So, and I want to preface this by no shade to the agent that listed this house, but let's see, it's Hollydale Lane. This is active as of yesterday, I believe. So the way I found this was I actually just looked up septic tanks and in the city of Fayetteville, because that's going to be like a first big red flag. If you see that a property is listed and it has a septic tank, but it has a Fayetteville zip code, or it's in Fayetteville proper, I would definitely take it to the next step and look a little further. This one is in Lake Rim North. As you can see, it's still on a septic tank. And over here where it says confirmed or proposed assessments, it says none. So what I immediately did is I came over to the PWC website. If you go to search by street, you type in Holly, immediately all of these pop up. And when you go here, it's going to bring you to the Lake Rim Estates project page. And as of right now, the design is complete. It's projected to start as of last month. And the only thing that's on here so far is the map. But what will come next is the public hearing for the amount once they're done. And they don't even have a anticipated completion date on here. They usually do, but I think they actually ended up getting to this project a little quicker than they were anticipating. But this is something that now at this time, you know that this is coming soon. So say you have a buyer and you want to put an offer on this house. What our agents on the team have done in the past is negotiate to get some kind of credit to help offset that cost eventually, even though it's not confirmed as of right now. It is something that they're going to have to take care of in the near future. And it's definitely something that I would make sure that your clients, like you have something signed somewhere that they're aware that this is something that they will be paying for in the near future, or potentially when they sell.
So this is an example of proposed.
Correct.
I have a, well, I'm sorry, you're probably going to show us example of confirmed, because I want to see how it's going to look when it's already confirmed.
Yes, so
Okay. Thank you.
if you go, let's see, I feel like Ray Condon should have it.
That's interesting, that's not confirmed yet, if the project's already started. That's what they just don't, that's, yeah.
Yes, so it's because they haven't had the public hearing to confirm how much it's gonna be
Okay.
to be able to put the assessments on the property. Ray Conda is a good example of one that is, I'm fairly certain this one's confirmed. Let me take a look here. So they kind of just put. So for this one specifically, this one actually isn't confirmed yet, but it's close to being confirmed because they're gonna have, this is a copy of the notice that people will get or have already gotten since it's gonna be next month. And as you can see on this one, there's a lot more communication and documents to look at because it's much further along. There is a waiver that can be, people can sign up for. They do have stuff for people with lower income to be able to pay for it over time. And then at a certain point, I believe if you pay for it up until a certain date, you don't pay interest. And then after that, you do pay interest. So this is an example of one that is much more further along. And then I wanted to touch on a situation that we had back in December. So one of our agents had a property under contract that was in 28311 zip code. I saw that it was on well and on septic. So immediately like red flags are going, like what's going on here? I come to the PWC website, I look it up. There is nothing about it on here. No assessment, no asked assessment, nothing. It doesn't show anything for the property. So I still don't feel comfortable with that. And I decided to call PWC. Well, come to find out, it was part of an assessment that happened back in like the 80s. And the assessment was paid. So there was no active assessment on the property. However, they've never hooked up to the sewer or the water. And that's fine in most cases. However, if you have a client, in this case, what we did is we had a conversation with our client basically saying like, you can keep your septic tank for as long as it's in working order. However, if you go to apply for an improvement permit on your septic tank because you need to make repairs, the county could deny it and say that you have to connect because it's available, and now it is a public health issue if it's causing, if it's leaking, whatever the case may be. So it's not set in stone that you never have to connect, but for the meantime, they were fine and they decided to move forward and not ask the seller to pay, because this is the quote that we got from PwC. Ignore the atrocious way that they spelled my name. So they went out, they have to visit the property to measure for the lines and the laterals and all of that. It was gonna be $8,000 for PwC to lay their lines from the lines that were in the road just to the house. This is not connecting the house to those lines. So there's gonna be additional money on top of that from a plumber who comes out to actually make the connection. So this is something that we made sure that they knew. We have signed copies saying that they acknowledge that they received this. They're aware that this is something that they may have to pay for in the future, or that when they sell their house, that a future buyer may ask them to pay for. So, yeah, and this was for water and sewer. So that was a little crazy.
What's the average cost to hook up?
So
aside from the separate plumber for the house? That's what I.
Seems like 5, right?
yeah, it's usually the assessment itself is $5.
I will say in Eastover, because we got flipped out for their water and sewer taps, $12,000.
Oh, gosh.
We had bought 2 lots and then, we just, because my husband had always, it kind of been through PwC and it was not, and we followed it, but yeah. That was ridiculous. They're just trying to pay for that new building.
You remember when the city did the big annex and they took everybody in? I remember Montclair, because we had friends that lived in Montclair and they were being charged, I think $3,800. That was 15 years ago, I'm sure. So I can't believe it's 12 grand.
This was in Eastover though. Eastover is their own municipality. So
Yeah.
they can charge.
Yeah. So let's see.
Caitlin, a question on number one, dumb question, I know. If it already says PwC water sewer, and you confirm, yes, they have water sewer, we don't need to worry about this, correct? Okay.
Once you've confirmed it. Now, because it's so easy on their website to look up the addresses, I really recommend just putting any address in it, because people could misrepresent or not know, put it in there incorrectly. The biggest thing I see a lot of times is people who aren't from our area. So Raleigh agents that are listing houses in our area that have no idea, and they'll just put city sewer, unless it specifically, and even then, but unless it specifically says PwC, if it says anything other than that, and we, for the most part, know different, I'm looking into it.
So where do you see just for service?
So you mean for like confirming if they
Yeah.
do have PwC? So we actually send an email to PwC
Okay.
and we confirm all utilities no matter what
Okay.
across the board. I'll post it in the group again later, but let me see. This pulled up. This is what I had up last time for the last class.
And that's good to email and have it in writing. So I normally follow them notes, but email is.
One of the things that our VAs figured out is to make it a little easier when you're confirming utilities, especially if you don't, like, you're not just gonna reach out to one of them, you wanna kind of knock them all out at once. Is blind copying everybody on the email when you send it, and then they'll respond and they can't see that you've reached out to all these other people asking for the utility information. And then we take that and we put a copy of that email in DocuSign and have the buyers initial it, showing that we've confirmed the utility companies, just to make it a little easier. I know at team meeting last time, there was somebody that came that said that that's like the service that they provide. They will, like, you give them the information and they'll confirm all the utilities and help the buyers set it up, make it easier for them. We haven't used that yet, so I can't speak to that, but apparently that is a service that costs no money. Trying to look at my thing from last month pulled up.
Do you have, and it could be from last time, do you have the emails of who you send those to?
Yes. So I'm emailing that to myself real quick. Let's see. Okay, so this is what I shared last month. This is kind of a one central place to find all of the information that you need to reach out to these companies. We have the link for the website for Duke Energy. We also do still email them because I don't know, maybe we have trust issues or something, but it'll say on there, we had one that's in a new construction neighborhood and one of them popped up and said, yes, we service this area. The house was on the same street. I looked up the next one and it was like, please reach out. So I don't know if it's 100% updated all the time, but they do have a thing on their website that you can look up. We also email them, and I'll update this before I put it in the group today with the email for them. Same with Piedmont, PWC, Lummi River EMC, Aqua, and Cumberland County Public Utilities, which we touched on last time. That was the one with the public water that comes from a well that is affected by Gen X out in Grays Creek. There's a small utility company called Cumberland County Public Utilities that has some people hooked up to sewer where sewer or septic systems were failing, and then a couple water companies. And I believe that is going to be the water company out in Grays Creek once they get everything sorted out for that. That's in the beginning stages, and it's kind of hard to find out information on it when we were going through what we were going through with that one specific new construction property. They don't really have a lot of information on their website. They're not very forthcoming with information when you call. It was literally a wild goose chase to find out the information that we did. But definitely, if you see anything that says Cumberland County Public Utilities, like stop everything you're doing and look into it, because that water is purchased in bulk from Bladen County and is affected by Gen X. Just FYI, don't make the same mistake we did. It all worked out though. That client did end up closing on the house and they are happy. So I will also put that in the group again later, just so everybody has this. And again, with the one website that I recommend everybody like bookmark on your browsers, anything, keep this readily available at all times. It's statewide title. This is going to be your best friend. It has every county in North Carolina, the county website, registered deeds, GIS, tax website, everything, and all in one place. I'm on this website no less than 15 times a day.
I wish the statewide, it was every county website was the thing.
Yeah.
Like the GIS, because you guys are like, oh, what's this?
Yes, I wish every county's GIS was like Harnett County's GIS, because theirs has the most information. It links you. You can get it even links you to like permitting websites. You can see the whole deed history, everything in one spot. It utilities, schools, it's all right there, and it is so helpful. Cumberland County's is pretty good. Hope County's is the worst.
Isn't Cumberland County's, does their show utilities too?
Yes.
I thought so, but you
But-
still email.
So
them,
yes, we
correct?
still, so with Cumberland County, I'm gonna pull that up because that was something I wanted to touch on as well.
Yeah, 'cause I'm pretty sure I just, looked that up last time, but you're saying I should still email.
I
the
would
same
say
thing.
definitely still look it up because, for instance, if we'll use that, what I was talking about before as an example, it was 991 Hilton Drive in Fayetteville. So if you go to this on here and you click utilities on the layers. If I stopped here, I would think that they had PWC. Because it shows that the lines are in front of the house. I would have not ever thought to look further into that, other than the fact that we knew it was on well and septic, and then dig further, call PWC, find out, yes, they never hooked up. There isn't an assessment, because just because these lines are in front of the house doesn't mean that they're hooked up. And it's also sometimes hard to tell what company it is, because if you go to the layer and you click here, you can see that it shows you different companies, water, aqua, but when you drop down these boxes, for instance, aqua and then PWC, that one's a little thicker. That wasn't a good example. They all look the same. So Overhills, PWC, I guess there's supposed to be a difference between what those are, but you really can't tell. And there's nothing that shows you when you click on the parcel that, yes, this is served by PWC or this is
Even if
served
you
by.
click the three dots, maybe I was looking at it. maybe that's what I'm thinking. Like on the actual parcel
So 991
or,
Hilton.
or down, or, I don't know, maybe not, maybe I'm making that up.
So it just shows you on here, and then if you click over, it just says municipal boundaries of Fayetteville, because sometimes if you click layers on here, it will show you, like, more will pop up as you scroll through this, but the utilities isn't one of them for whatever reason. So it's kind of hard to tell. If you see, you can see right here, it says PWC,
Mhm.
but again, it's just hard to tell.
Yeah.
One of the good things on here, though, that you can use this for is, I'm gonna go back to that other address that we were looking at before. You can also use this to see if there might potentially be an easement, if you haven't already looked at the plat. Which is also something that is good to let your clients know. We had somebody one time that terminated over a utility easement in their yard because they were planning to build a garage or something of the sort. So if you look, and then you back up out of here, this is a good example, because this is that neighborhood that we were looking at a minute ago. As you can see, there are no lines for utilities at all in this entire neighborhood. So if you're looking at the GIS with the public utilities layer clicked, you can see some of these where it's missing. And I'll look into that a little further, but what I wanted to show you guys is over here. What is it? Oh, so you see how this line is going through the property right here?
Mhm.
If you click on the plat for this. You can see that that property has a utility easement going across it. So you can use that to see, and then, then look into it further and disclose as needed. But this is pretty accurate with where the lines are, and it is updated as they install more lines with the annexations that are going on.
I wish I would have done things differently.
So,
My team really wants to get out of your office, like, would you guys consider it?
so as you can see, this is Lake Rim Estates. There are no lines, any public utility, anything in that neighborhood. And as you go towards the Stony Point area, I don't know if any of you guys have driven over there recently, but you can see that they're actively doing work. And there's like a big sign that says this is part of phase whatever of the utility assessment. You can see, let's see. You can see where they're actually doing this right now. So. There. So Stony Point Road, this is one of the areas that is being annexed into PWC right now. And as you can see, there are no lines. So something just to, I think that that's kind of a around your butt to get to your elbow way to figure out that there might be an assessment, but the website, PWC's website is going to be your best friend when it comes to that, because it is so easy. It takes 5 seconds.
So all of Gates 4 is not annexed, so they don't get PWC.
So it looks like, yeah, they're not even in Fayetteville city limits, as you
They're
can
not
see.
in town.
Yep.
They pay a lot of money to not get annexed.
And they actually do have PWC in there, but I'm sure that was some kind of agreement a while ago. But yeah, and then, yeah, that's something just helpful to see. Some of the other GISs give you more information and more accurate information as to who the provider is, Harnett County being one of them, which is super helpful. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to touch on with PWC today. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yeah, this is definitely one. Go ahead.
How did you pull up that easement? Because I'm at the same map, and I just don't see the green line on the same map, Cumberland County.
When you're on the GIS, you're gonna want to click up here on the layer list, and then
Hold on 1 second, because I have a screen cover there. Layer list. Okay.
and then you're gonna check public public utilities.
Okay.
And then once you do that, I'm actually also gonna show you guys my house, for instance, because this is actually how I figured it out. I knew I had a sewer easement in my backyard, but this shows it really well, because I have a manhole cover in my backyard. As you can see, this is coming through the property lines. And then when you click on the parcel, it'll bring up this page. And you can click plat book and page. And if you zoom in, oops. Enough for everybody to see. You can see right there is the easement. And so it's pretty accurate with showing that. And then I would, usually when this is brought, if we have a situation where there's an easement or there's a property that's near a flood zone, anything that we might want to have a conversation with the buyer about prior to us sending these documents, our virtual assistant will send me an email and the agent letting us know that whatever is the case, or maybe the schools from the MLS didn't match. And, you know, we don't know if schools are an important thing to them. So we want to make sure, hey, this is a phone call for sure. And we let them know just so that they know what they're signing. Because one thing that surprises me so much about this job is how many people don't read what they sign. It never fails to amaze me. People will sign anything and then ask questions about it later. And this is one of those cases where I would definitely want to get on the phone and I want to make sure that they understand what they're signing and also understand that this is something that is on their property. Now, of course, I have an easement on my property. I can say in the past 10 years, I have probably had PWC come to my house and need to access it 2 times. It's not a huge issue, but it might be for some people if they want to put up a shed or a workshop or, you know, anything. Because sometimes for me also, I have a manhole cover in my backyard. There's no way I could build on top of it, but sometimes that's not the case and they're just underground. And then, you know, 5 years down the road, your buyer may be a little upset that they built a shed on top of the easement and then they're told that they have to take it down or something because they have to work on it or whatever the case may be. Definitely want to be aware and make sure that they're aware of that. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on that I realized this morning I hadn't talked about yet during these classes is this is definitely not just for the buyer side. I would say that when you're listing a property, this is something good to be pulling so that you're aware as the listing agent that any one of these things could be an issue, so that because your seller may not be aware. Our team pulls all of these same things for a listing once the listing agreement is signed and make sure that everything is ready to go prior to the house being listed. Like for instance, making sure that the seller is the person who is allowed to be selling the house. We've had a situation recently with like a trust and it's been a little messy from what I know. I primarily, well, only work with buyers, so I can't speak to that a whole lot, but I hear when it's talked about, when we talk about it at Huddle, and I definitely wanted to just make sure that you guys also know that this is helpful to do for your sellers as well if you're listing. Because we've had one in a situation one time where the person didn't know they had a septic tank. They told the team that they were paying a PWC bill. Well, they weren't. Well, they were, but it wasn't for sewer services at least.
Yeah, I had a wife take the loan for the electric company. But I do try to ask for like some of their, deals, just.
I know,
the
if
buyer's
that's
website,
they can
yeah.
just, then you can look on there and see it right after they.
Does anybody have any questions about either of those things or really anything GIS related?
For PWC, can people still have their well for irrigation?
I'm honestly not sure. I haven't heard that they can't if they want to keep, because I mean, I've seen ones where people are hooked up to PWC, but then they say that there's a well on the property for irrigation. So I don't think it's a problem. I haven't ever seen it be one.
I have a buyer and I knew it was PWC, but I did call to confirm and they said yes, water, sewer and irrigation.
Mhm.
And so they knew it was, anyway, and I just thought, wow, I didn't know if they could have a well. I mean, I guess I did.
Well, and that brings up a good thing, and Brittany, maybe you could chime in at some point. I hate to put you on the spot like that. Apparently at open forum yesterday, Trisha was talking about how PWC has confirmed that there is Gen X in their public water. I think there's gonna be more information to come as far as disclosing and stuff like that, but I have always, in a way, felt that we should be disclosing the Gen X issue in the area regardless of if there's a well, because what if the person wants to dig a well to water animals that they may plan to have, if they're buying land, and, you know, there's just, I think it's a good thing for people to know. Of course, I don't know commission wise and real estate legality wise of what you should be or shouldn't be saying, what can be considered steering, I don't know. So I think there's going to be more information to come on that. I'm really hoping that Longleaf updates the Gen X disclosure, because it is out of date right now as it is, because the levels aren't updated to the most recent change where they were lowered. But yes, PWC does have Gen X in their public water now.
We
And
haven't put anything official out, but I think they're probably just working to find some type of resolution before they tell everyone they're being poisoned. But yeah, and then there's like a PWC. What did I call it yesterday?
PWC Day,
PWC Day, which is like May 4. You guys may have seen an email about it. Trish showed it on one of her emails, but hopefully, I'm assuming they'll be talking about it then.
yeah, and so after Brittany told me about that yesterday, this is on the website, the 2022 Water Quality Report. And they talk about all of these things in here. You can read through this. And if you go, they touch on it here as well. The reports of Gen X being discharged into the Cape Fear River are below the PWC water service area. Well, time to find out. Let's see. You come down, they make you scroll a lot to get down to the actual results. But it's going to be testing for all of the standard stuff that they test for in the water, E. coli, coliforms, stuff like that. And then when you come down here, PFOA and PFOs, it does show the levels that have been found. Not specifically Gen X. I don't know if they're categorizing it into just PFAs and PFOAs. It's not necessarily named specifically, but it did say up farther that they have found it in the water. So that's unfortunate. Although I don't think anybody's really surprised. So yeah, those are the levels. So they're not great. But hopefully there'll be more information to come on that. And once there is, I'll update the version of my class that has the Gen X info to reflect whatever the newest stuff we find out is, because obviously this is all still developing and has been for the past several years. So all this information is subject to change. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you're staying up to date with what happens, because I see it all the time on the MLS. There are people who are still saying that the house doesn't have Gen X because it tested below what it was initially, which was 140 parts per trillion. Well, now it's 10. And so there are a lot of people who maybe once didn't qualify, but now do. I definitely would recommend being super careful with your listings on that. Because that is something that I feel like may come back to bite some people in the future. That's really scary.
What are the choices? I mean, what do you, I mean, you can tell them what it is, but you don't have anything to offer them. I mean, no, I mean, if it's on PWC,
No,
it is what it is.
yeah, and just give them what they need to make an informed decision about what they and how they want to move forward, because some people don't care. Some people are fine with it. And it's a lot more important to other people. So giving them access to the information that they need, because one thing that when you're looking up Fayetteville or Hope Mills prior to this, since this is obviously very new, it's not like that's something that initially pops up. So people could be researching an area to move to and they're like, oh, Hope Mills sounds nice, Grays Creek sounds nice. They have to really do some research to eventually find out that Gen X is a problem. It's not something that's really I don't want to say it's not talked about, but it's not something that you easily find when you're Googling it, unless you know what you're looking for and you're specifically looking it up. So I think, I do hope that Longleaf updates the Gen X disclosure, and that maybe it's just something that we send out across the board now, letting people know, it gives them the links that they need to look up to find out information, and then from there make a decision on what they want to do. Maybe they want to buy reverse osmosis for their house. I mean, ultimately, it's not that expensive to install a reverse osmosis system in your house, but I mean, then you have people who don't want to have it at all, which I kind of can't blame them, but it's definitely, there's really no right answer as to what you do when you find out about that for sure.
Who wants to go in with me and let's start a water filtration system? That's gonna.
This will be the time, yeah.
That's what's my mind's going right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to get rid of the PFAS stuff, you need that's a really difficult
Is
thing.
that the charcoal system?
Yeah, reverse osmosis and granular activated carbon are the only two ways as of right now that you can remove it from your water. That's what Hemmers is installing for houses that are affected with wells. You can get reverse osmosis from Lowe's for like $130 for a sink.
For one thing. right?
One sink, yeah, and that's not to include your showers.
What about the whole house?
Ooh, you're talking thousands.
Who
Yeah.
does?
I do not like
the
the sink.
16 volt house.
I believe Connecticut.
And it's like, so, okay, so great, yeah.
Yeah.
I can drink out of the sink, but like my babies are bathing in it. like,
Yeah.
you're drinking.
And your skin is the largest organ.
Yeah.
And like the whole house system will take up almost half of your garage.
Mhm.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. When Kemmers installs them, they like install a shed to hold it in. I want to see, oh my gosh, I have so much Gen X information on my computer. I need to try to find, I have pictures of what it is that they install. Let me see if I can find it and then put it up there.
Like me, putting 6 feet, but.
Well, yeah.
Hmm. I wonder if I can even just Google it. Let's see. Yes, it is. They will bring out a shed to the property. And it takes up the whole shed. Of course, I'm not gonna be able to find it. If I do, I'll post it in the group, but
It just amazes me that, to remediate this takes so much. And each house has got to have so much, you know what I mean? There's not like one big place of giving like all the houses in the neighborhood clean water.
I know that ultimately that's the goal, but that's something that's gonna take years. Out in Grace Creek, people. With that Cumberland County Public Utilities, their first main focus is getting public water to the elementary schools, so Alderman Road Elementary, Grace Creek Elementary, because they haven't been able to drink out of their water fountain since like 2017 out there. And then the houses that are closest to those schools will be the ones that get it first, and then so on and so forth. And I mean, obviously, there's also still neighborhoods that are being built with wells. Although I will say, I have seen, we had one back in September, and the well was really deep, and it was like a rock well, they said, and the results were clean. So, obviously there's no telling if over time that well will become contaminated. Because although they've stopped dumping it and releasing it into the air, they installed that thermal oxidizer thing, I think last year. There's really no telling, but I think Roslyn Farms West, is that the new part of the neighborhood that's over there that has wells? Those ones haven't come back with Gen X either. And I think I saw somewhere that they installed filtration on the well themselves when they were building that neighborhood.
We just got a quote, and they can't really tell you, they don't know how far down, but for a rock well. The man told me anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000. I was like, yeah.
And I've heard that the wells have to be deep in order to not get, get contaminated. Like, and I don't know what the average well depth is, but I know that the one that we had on Grace, I want to say it was like 150 feet deep or something crazy like that.
That's
So, yeah, it's a lot. And I know down in Wilmington, they installed, if I'm not mistaken, they are suing Chemours now for the cost to recoup what they paid to have an entire filtration facility built where there's like huge vats of activated charcoal that are, because they're public water, that was how it was like initially figured out. I want to say it was like $14 million or something crazy for them to install it. Let's see if I can find it. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna do this on the screen. Spell.
average well depth. I just texted my son, he has started into that. It's 20 to 35 feet. That's all.
For a normal well. Or PFAS well.
So this was the. They had to build an entire facility. That was granular activated carbon for their water. And I wonder if this is gonna show photos of it on the inside.
Well, they all drink water.
So this is what,
You get sick first.
There's not leaving the meeting.
But that's funny.
yeah, it shows that this is what. It was eventually gonna look like. I've seen a video of it where. It's going through. Let me go to images and see if I can get it to pop up there. This is a terrible picture of it, but like the water, it's like all just like big vats of black carbon that are, and that's what they're having to do to filter it out of their water down there. So I'm sure it's going to be something similar to that with PwC. On their website, it talks about that they're looking into what they can do.
There was a news article saying there was gonna be a $70 million facility. And I was like, that's gonna make, so it's gonna be expensive to drink water, I'll tell you. A lot of money.
And I'm also interested to see what comes of, because I know that PwC took part in the action against Chemours initially, prior to even knowing, or maybe they didn't know, who knows, about their water being contaminated. So I'm sure, well, I imagine that Chemours will be on the hook for the cost of that. But who knows how long that'll actually take, because I think the one in Wilmington just got up and running within the past like year or so, and they've known about it since 2017. So we're probably looking at PwC's water being contaminated for a couple of years before anything is actually fixed. But of course, at the next class, I'll definitely update with what information is new, whatever PwC day thing me and Brittany are planning to go to find out some more information and be able to share it with everybody once it's available. But that was a lot. Anybody have any questions?
Is do like any sites like send out updates on like the latest Gen X details or like latest Gen X boundaries and?
So they don't send it out. However, this is like, I also have this bookmarked on my computer. It is the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. When we were going through everything with that house out in Grace Creek with the water, these folks were the ones who helped me the most. I spoke to the person who was in the Fayetteville office. He was able to give me information that Bladen County themselves couldn't or wouldn't give to me, that Cumberland County Public Utilities again couldn't or wouldn't give to me. And he pointed me in the direction of very helpful information. and I'm gonna go into this in the next class, maybe the next one will be more heavily focused on Gen X, because there's a website called the PFAS Network. He also he showed me this website. This is how I found the test results for Bladen County. If you come on here, gosh, it's like kind of hard to use this website. I can't even remember. It's on here. Hold on. I have it. No, I have it bookmarked on my actual computer.
What about study areas?
Everything that is the most recent update from the Department of Environmental Quality is on this website. If you look up NCDEQ Gen X, it'll bring you to here. And I have the one for Bladen, Cumberland, and Robeson counties bookmarked on my computer. And this is where they updated it in June of 2022 when those levels were initially dropped. I'm hearing talk that those levels will be further dropped and sometime this year. I think ultimately the health goal that I've seen is they want it to be like no more than 1 part per trillion. So that's again going to change everything. And it shows here that it replaced the additional or the previous health water goal of 140 parts per trillion. And this links you to weekly well sampling maps. Okay, I guess I can't do it on this computer. But if you come on here, you can get to where each map is. Each week it's updated. I think they're required under the consent order to keep this up as public information. And you can see which houses have been tested, of the ones that are available for testing, who accepted it, of the ones who accepted it, what did they qualify for? And the map isn't the best because it shows the area in sectors. It doesn't actually show you Fayetteville, Hope Mills. You can only see where the Chemours facility is, and you kind of have to, maybe make an overlay for another map or just assume where it is. I think they make it hard to figure out. They're doing the bare minimum. And you can see, and it's updated literally every single week. And on here, there is so much information on this website.
Now,
There's
what did
maps.
you click to get to that menu itself? Come on their homepage and
So I want to say from their homepage, you can go down and they have Gen X well testing, and it took me actually right to the Cumberland County one. I don't know how to make it to where I can look at this on here.
how are you?
But, oh, there it is. So when you come on here, you can, this is what you're gonna get. And again, I think they try to purposely overwhelm people so that you won't look, but if you sort by the document date, you can see the most recent one was on the 9th. You click this. It will eventually load. And this is what it brings you to. And all those little dots, the gray ones are residents that have been previously sampled. The green is who were offered. The pink they visited, and the yellow are the ones that they've collected. And then down here, this is the one that's a little scary. This shows you who is eligible for whole home filtration system, who is eligible for reverse osmosis, and what their levels were, either greater than or less than 10 or 70. I wish that was a little more clear so that you guys can see that better. Oh, there you go. So all those little dots shows you what they mean. This shows you the boundary of the Fayetteville Works facility, and you can see it as of right now. So as of right now, the only way to find test results on a property, unless the owner gives them to you and discloses it, is through Freedom of Information Act request, which it's not a quick thing. I'm hoping that eventually maybe they'll make some kind of a thing where you can look up an address, see if that address has been tested. If I had the free time, I would absolutely do that myself, because I feel like you have to go 5 million places to find out information. And ultimately, I don't think that's great for people who are looking to buy or sell, because there are sellers who want to make sure that people understand what's going on, and then there's ones who don't, and you can only disclose what you know, unfortunately.
We're gonna have the patience to look
Yeah.
into it, so you're like, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of houses that I see it on the MLS a lot, you know, this house hasn't ever been tested. Like, I would have been first in line. But, yeah, and you can see this for every week. This was from the 3rd to the 9th, so a week or so ago. And ultimately, as those levels of what is considered acceptable or safe drop, this will continue getting larger. And this is all the way up in like Autryville, so. Definitely keep yourself as informed as possible, because I know initially it was like 6 miles from the plant is what they said the issue was. And then it grew, and now I want to say, if you go, it says it on here somewhere. "10 miles south and 25 miles north of the plant is what they're actively sampling right now. And from what I know about the consent order, as long as they are finding people, they have to keep going on out farther and farther and farther.
Or just determine what it is.
Mhm.
It's not gonna stop.
Nope. Yeah, we've had people in Parkton, people in Autryville. I haven't had anybody out in Rayford, but I haven't really actually had a well out in Rayford in a while, so. Obviously Grace Creek, Hope Mills. So. I'd definitely be interested to see Fayetteville, houses that are still in Fayetteville, but that requires people to do private testing, because I don't think that Kemmers is sampling if you're within, I don't know, it keeps changing, but unfortunately the tests aren't super accessible because they're also $650.
Now, I have a lady that you can call, because I called her on a new construction, which is it's Cumberland County, Autryville. And I'll pull that up and share April, and like she goes, we can have somebody out there tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like Parsons through Kenmore's.
Yes, April is actually the one who I have her number saved in my phone, because when we were trying to find out if the house that was out in Grace Creek, because it fell under that weird loophole, you know, the water came from a well, but it wasn't a private well. So everything on their website said, you know, private well sampling, residential wells. She did tell me that unfortunately, like, it was a situation she had never seen before. She did have to talk to her supervisor, called me back and said ultimately they would not be coming out to test the house itself, because they were installing granular, like a GAC system on the well itself out in Bladen County. So they wouldn't come out and test the house. So the house itself can't have any filtration that's paid for by Kemmers. Buyer can do whatever they want, obviously, but yeah, I can post April's information in the group. I don't have her last name. I just have her saved in my phone. It's April.
She's one of the ones that you're saying, if it's in those like areas that
Yes.
they will come on
That's
and
who.
pay for it.
Yes,
They'll-
so Kemmers, Parsons is who Kemmers has like contract with to come out and do the water test initially, to find out if they're gonna provide mitigation, because of course. They will not, you cannot give them a private Gen X test that you got from, say, Pillar to Post and have them come out. They will only go based on their own testing. Which is crazy. But they also won't test every house, so if that's also like pulling teeth, is trying to figure, like, get them out to begin with. I will say their response time has gotten better. I called probably, I want to say it was summer 2021 on a property that we had, and it took them well over a week to get back in touch with me. And for this one specifically, I heard back within that, they say like you'll hear back within 2 business days, and I did. I called, like, I want to say on a Wednesday, and I heard back first thing Friday morning, so. If you suspect the need to call them, I definitely say call them and then like do that first.
Yeah.
So that you're not waiting. But. Yeah, I think the next class will be more Gen X, give you guys all the information that I know how to find, that I was given access to from this North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, so that you guys have that information as well. Because I was definitely not aware of how many public water sources are actually from wells, and that's pertinent information. Any questions? Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right.